You might think it's just an old house. The walls are worn, the furniture outdated. Maybe you've even wondered if it's time to move, start fresh, somewhere brighter, newer, cleaner. But before you decide, look again. There are homes that echo with tension, no matter how beautifully they're built. And then there are homes like yours, where something feels quietly right. A soft breeze always finds its way in. A small flower blooms without being asked. People walk in and feel lighter without knowing why. These are not random moments. They are signs. Signs that your home is holding something sacred, not flashy, not loud, but real, a kind of stillness that protects. A softness that gathers unseen fortune. A balance that asks for nothing, but gives day by day in quiet ways. You may have overlooked these details for years. The way the morning light rests gently in the corner. The way the air smells clean without effort. The way old things still work without needing repair. But what if these are not just features? What if they are signals? In this video, we'll explore 9 hidden signs that your modest home might be a sacred place of prosperity. Not because of its size or value on paper, but because of the energy it quietly holds. You don't have to believe in magic to feel this truth. You just need to notice what's been waiting for you right where you are. Number 1, the light arrives exactly where it should. Some houses are bright but feel restless. Others are dim but feel peaceful. But there are rare homes, modest and quiet, where the light doesn't just enter, it settles. Not all light is the same, and not all homes receive it in the same way. There's a particular kind of light that doesn't glare. It doesn't overwhelm. It doesn't flood every corner to prove a point. Instead, it arrives softly, touching the walls like a memory. It falls across the floor like a question gently answered. When a home receives this kind of light, especially in the early morning, it's not about how many windows there are or which direction they face. It's about the way light moves through the space and how the space receives it. Some rooms seem to open themselves to the light without effort. Curtains lift slightly as if welcoming it. Dust dances not like clutter, but like something alive. And in those moments, the home itself seems to exhale. This is not decoration, it's alignment. Light that arrives exactly where it should is not a matter of luck. It's a reflection of stillness, of a space that's not fighting itself. No clutter blocking the windows. No heavy objects where energy wants to flow. Just enough openness for light to find its way in and stay. And when light stays, so does clarity. People who live in these spaces often find they make decisions more easily. Not because life is simpler, but because they can feel the direction things want to move. There's less second guessing, more inner quiet, less mental noise, more time. You'll notice they pause before reacting. They sit longer with their tea. They look out the window not to escape, but to return to themselves. The light is doing more than illuminating, it's participating. Over time, that subtle presence builds something stronger than luxury. It creates emotional safety. It becomes easier to breathe, easier to forgive, easier to hope. Guests often feel it before the owners do. Your home is so calming, they say, standing near the window without knowing why. But the home knows. It's been holding the light for years, and when the home holds light, it also holds fortune. Not in the form of lottery wins or dramatic miracles, but in the form of momentum. The kind that gently tilts things in your favor. A job offer that arrives without strain. A health scare that quietly resolves. A relationship that deepens instead of fading. The kind of fortune that doesn't flash, but stays. All because the home knows how to welcome light. Sometimes it's just one corner, a spot near the dining table where the light rests at noon. A sliver near the bookshelf that only appears at 8:40 a.m., then disappears like a whisper. but that's enough. When that light is free to land, when it's not blocked by unopened boxes, piles of neglected things, or curtains always drawn, it becomes an invitation. An invitation for energy to gather, for the air to refresh itself, for the heart to stay soft. And the most powerful part, you don't have to change the structure of your home to allow this. You just have to let the light in. Sometimes that means opening the window a little earlier, pulling back the curtain just a bit more, cleaning the glass until you see through it clearly, not just outside, but inward. Sometimes it means standing in the light yourself, letting it warm your back as you wash the dishes, letting it trace your hands as you fold old clothes, letting it land on your shoulders, not just to see better, but to feel better. It may seem small, but light knows where to go. It only asks for space, and when you make room for it, something changes, not all at once, but gradually. You'll notice you stop turning on the light in the middle of the day. You start waking earlier. You open your eyes not because the alarm says so, but because the room feels awake. There's nothing extraordinary about the moment, but it feels alive. Like something is watching over you. Like something is slowly preparing you for something better. That's when you know the light has arrived exactly where it should. Not in a grand cathedral, not in a modern mansion, but in this house, your house. The one you once thought too small, too old, too ordinary. It was never ordinary. It was simply waiting for you to notice how it glows quietly, faithfully, without asking for attention. Let that light stay. Keep your windows clear. Open them even just for 10 minutes. Let the air exchange stories with the sky. Let the light fall on your floor and linger. And the next time someone visits, watch how they breathe. Watch how their shoulders drop. Watch how the light rests on them too. Then smile, because now you see it. Your modest home is not just a place where you live. It is a space that lives with you, and the light knows it. Number 2, the scent of warmth lingers from the kitchen. There's a kind of comfort that doesn't come from what you see, but from what you smell. You step inside a home, and before anyone speaks, something greets you. Not words, not decor, a scent. Something faint, soft, not strong enough to name, but impossible to ignore. It's not the smell of cooking, it's not perfume or candles. It's something simpler, like the gentle warmth that rises from a well-used kitchen. A kind of quiet memory in the air. This is more than pleasant, it's energy. When a home smells clean, warm, and natural without needing to be filled with artificial scents, it's a sign that the space is breathing, that the air is circulating, that nothing stagnant is being held too long. Air that moves carries energy. And when that energy is clean, the scent it leaves behind becomes a message. Something here is alive and safe. The kitchen is usually the source. Not because of spices or soap, but because it holds the heart of the home. This is where warmth is created, where hands move without hurry, where food is touched before it's eaten. The kitchen absorbs intention. If meals are made in love, if silence is stirred with care, if nothing is rushed or forced, this becomes scent. Not a smell, but a feeling that rises without form and stays, even when no one is cooking. A home that holds this scent is not just tidy, it's energetically aligned. There's no sourness, no stale corners, no heavy fog that makes you feel like you should open a window. Even when no fan is running, the air feels clear. When you return home after a long day and breathe in, and your shoulders soften, that's the space speaking. That's the house telling you you're safe here, and safety is prosperity. Because when a home holds that kind of emotional ease, the people inside start to shift. They argue less, they sit longer, meals stretch. Conversations become slower, kinder. The air becomes a balm. Guests stay a little too long, not because of politeness, but because they don't feel like rushing out. There's no tension in their chest. They don't even know why, but your home knows. It has been quietly exhaling warmth for years because it's been lived in, not just occupied. Because the people here don't just cook, they gather. They don't just clean, they care. They open the windows when it rains. They dry herbs by the stove. They wipe the table slowly after a meal, not to finish faster, but because it matters. That care becomes scent. That scent becomes energy. That energy becomes luck. Not sudden or loud, but constant. The kind of fortune that arrives in unexpected invitations, kind phone calls, small windfalls that show up when needed most. All rooted in how the house feels, and that feeling starts in the air. No incense needed, no sprays or oils, just attention. Maybe it's the citrus peel left out to dry, or the hint of rice just cooked, or the soft steam of boiled water in the morning. None of it is meant to impress. But all of it communicates. This home is loved, and because of that, it's strong. What's more, the scent reveals how time moves in the house. Fast-paced homes often smell like nothing or like stress, but slow homes have layers. The past lingers lightly, the present feels breathable, and the future doesn't push too hard. That's why homes with warm air often feel timeless. You lose track of clocks. You remember childhood kitchens, even if they looked nothing like this. You feel things instead of analyzing them, and that is what draws fortune, not through effort, but through resonance. When your space smells alive, it attracts life. When it smells gentle, it draws in gentleness. When it holds warmth, it makes space for others to feel safe, and people who feel safe are generous. With kindness, with support, with opportunities, so breathe in. Not to identify what you smell, but to notice how it makes you feel. If the air in your home invites a deep, relaxed breath, that is a hidden blessing, one you cannot buy, one you can only build day by day, choice by choice, meal by meal. Keep it simple. Boil water with a few slices of ginger. Let sunlight touch the kitchen wall in the morning. Dry orange peels in a quiet corner. Let the scent of your home be the result of love, not effort. Let it be an invitation, not a performance. Because when the air of a house is warm and light, it doesn't just smell clean. It smells like grace. And grace, when it lingers, becomes fortune. Number 3, the door isn't new, but it opens kindly. There's something quiet in the way a door moves. You don't often think about it. You walk through it every day. But one day, without warning, you notice it doesn't creak. It doesn't resist. It doesn't swing open too fast or shut too harshly. It just opens and then closes like it knows the rhythm of your life. This isn't about hinges or maintenance. It's about the way the house welcomes you. Some doors are heavy even when they're unlocked. You feel it in your hand, as if the space behind them is tense or holding something back. And some doors are too loose, as if they're unsure whether they should protect or let go. But then there are doors like yours, worn from time, faded in color, maybe a little chipped along the frame, but they open kindly. That kindness is a sign. A door like that suggests the home it belongs to is balanced. That whoever lives inside isn't forcing life forward or shutting it out. That there's a flow not just of air but of welcome. Energy doesn't crash into that space. It enters slowly, adjusts, settles in, and it begins with the door. The front door isn't just a way in. It's a threshold, a pause between the world outside and the space you've made sacred. The way it opens says a lot about the way you live. If you pull it with tension, it reflects the weight you carry. But when it glides, quiet, steady, without effort, it tells a different story. One of emotional safety, of softened strength, of someone who has learned not to fight every current. A door like that doesn't ask for attention, but it gives you something every day, a silent greeting when you return and a soft farewell when you leave. That rhythm shapes your energy. You step into your day differently. You step into yourself differently. and guests feel it too. They knock, and even before it opens, they feel something gentle, something that says, "Come in, but come slowly. This is a quiet place." When they walk in, there's no rush, no confusion, no awkward energy hanging in the entryway. The transition feels natural, as if the house has already made space for them. That's because the door has been practicing kindness for years. Even when the world outside is loud, fast, uncertain, the moment the door closes behind you, the noise doesn't follow. Not because the house is soundproof, but because the energy at the threshold is clear. It doesn't drag in what doesn't belong. It doesn't hold on to the day longer than it should. It separates gently, like clean linen pulled from a line. And that softness, repeated day after day, becomes fortune. Not the kind that arrives all at once, but the kind that stays, a steady career, a friend who always checks in, a decision that turns out just right, a sense of timing that's quietly perfect. These aren't accidents. They're the natural result of a space that opens with grace and holds with care. You can feel the difference in other homes. A door that slams often leads to arguments inside. A door that sticks reflects energy stuck somewhere else. But a door that opens smoothly, no matter how old, creates a kind of trust. It tells you, this space knows how to hold you. That kind of holding creates resilience. When your door opens kindly, life doesn't feel like a battle. You can come home tired but not defeated. You can wake up uncertain but not afraid. The door is the first boundary the world crosses to reach you. If it holds steady, so can you. And you don't need to replace it. You don't need a new paint job or a perfect frame. What matters is how it feels. Whether your hand rests easily on the knob, whether the air shifts softly as it opens, whether you feel welcomed before you've even stepped inside. If not, change how you treat it. Wipe the handle once a week, not just for hygiene, but for energy. Open it slowly in the morning as if saying thank you. Close it in the evening with intention, as if putting the day to rest. Let it become more than wood and screws. Let it be a gesture. Because in homes where the door opens kindly, life opens the same way. You may not notice the change at first, but you'll begin to meet less resistance. The days unfold more gently. People speak to you differently, and most importantly, you start speaking to yourself differently. You start believing that the world is not always against you. That protection can be soft. That strength can be quiet. That your home is not just where you return, but where you're reminded they arrive without permission, without announcement, without reason you can explain. A bird near the window, a butterfly circling a corner, a bee, quiet and gentle, brushing the edge of your potted basil. You pause not out of fear, but because something about their presence feels important. Like a message not spoken in words. These visitors are not random. Some homes never see them. The air is clean, the garden is green, and yet no wings hover there. But then there are homes where they return, again and again, perching, nesting, resting even inside, as if something in the space invites them to stay. That invitation is energy. Animals, especially small, sensitive ones, respond to what we can't always see. They feel the flow of stillness, the safety in slowness, the absence of noise, not just in sound, but in frequency. When a bird chooses your balcony over all others, or a bee lingers where it could easily pass by, it's not accident. It's recognition. Recognition of a safe field. Homes that welcome nature in quiet ways often hold balanced, grounded energy. Not too loud, not too restless, not pushing anything out or pulling anything in, just present. And presence is rare, especially in spaces where humans live, because most spaces are filled with movement, urgency, forgotten emotions trapped in objects. But when a home has been cleared, aired, softened, and left open without demand, life notices. Wings return, creatures arrive. And for a few still seconds, your home becomes something more than shelter. It becomes part of the world again. You might think it's cute, even lucky. And yes, it is, but it's also a sign. A sign that your home's energy is not only clean, but magnetic. That it doesn't just repel negativity, it attracts trust. That the boundaries around it are not just walls, but invitations, not loud or showy, but clear. Clear enough for nature to recognize something sacred. And when they do more than visit, when they build, when a bird begins to nest under your awning, when bees start appearing near the same window each morning, that's no longer a moment. That's a message. Something inside your home is holding stillness strong enough to become a resting place for life. And life doesn't settle where chaos lives. So you ask, what does it mean when they stay? It means the energy here supports not only you, but others. That the balance in your space is so natural, even the wild feels it. It means your home may be aligned with subtle forces, call it grace or resonance or simply readiness, that allow good things to begin forming quietly. And the key word is quietly. These creatures don't bring wealth in golden bags, they bring rhythm, presence, continuity. They show up again and again, like fortune that doesn't rush. Like a soft sign that something is building slowly, invisibly on your behalf. And yes, their presence may coincide with real shifts, an unexpected opportunity, a long-lost connection returning, a moment of health restored. Not because they cause these things, but because their arrival reflects the conditions that allow those things to emerge. Calm, safety, receptivity. Of course, not everyone sees it. Some people wave them away, chase them out, see them as pests. That's their right. But when you choose differently, when you let them stay, observe them, make room for them without fear, you're choosing to let your home continue being what it's already becoming, a sanctuary. That doesn't mean you need to keep nests forever. It means you recognize them while they're here. You give thanks, not to the bird or the bee, but to the space itself and to yourself for creating a home that nature trusts. Let that trust deepen. Keep your windows clean but not closed. Keep your corners soft, your noise low. Let the air move freely and life will find its way in. And when it does, don't ask too many questions. Just watch, just breathe. Because when birds, butterflies, or bees choose to rest in your space, you're not just hosting a visitor. You're witnessing a blessing, not loud, but lasting, of who you are. And that reminder begins every time the door opens. Number 4, birds, butterflies, or bees choose to rest there. They arrive without permission, without announcement, without reason you can explain. A bird near the window, a butterfly circling a corner. A bee, quiet and gentle, brushing the edge of your potted basil. You pause, not out of fear, but because something about their presence feels important, like a message not spoken in words. These visitors are not random. Some homes never see them. The air is clean, the garden is green, and yet no wings hover there. But then there are homes where they return, again and again, perching, nesting, resting, even inside, as if something in the space invites them to stay. That invitation is energy. Animals, especially small, sensitive ones, respond to what we can't always see. They feel the flow of stillness, the safety in slowness, the absence of noise, not just in sound, but in frequency. When a bird chooses your balcony over all others, or a bee lingers where it could easily pass by, it's not accident. It's recognition. Recognition of a safe field. Homes that welcome nature in quiet ways often hold balanced, grounded energy. Not too loud, not too restless, not pushing anything out or pulling anything in, just present. And presence is rare, especially in spaces where humans live. Because most spaces are filled with movement, urgency, forgotten emotions trapped in objects. But when a home has been cleared, aired, softened, and left open without demand, life notices. Wings return, creatures arrive, and for a few still seconds, your home becomes something more than shelter. It becomes part of the world again. You might think it's cute, even lucky. And yes, it is, but it's also a sign that your home's energy is not only clean, but magnetic, that it doesn't just repel negativity, it attracts trust, that the boundaries around it are not just walls, but invitations, not loud or showy, but clear enough for nature to recognize something sacred. And when they do more than visit, when they build. When a bird begins to nest under your awning, when bees start appearing near the same window each morning, that's no longer a moment. That's a message. Something inside your home is holding stillness strong enough to become a resting place for life. And life doesn't settle where chaos lives. So you ask, what does it mean when they stay? It means the energy here supports not only you, but others. That the balance in your space is so natural, even the wild feels it. It means your home may be aligned with subtle forces, call it grace or resonance or simply readiness, that allow good things to begin forming quietly. And the key word is quietly. These creatures don't bring wealth in golden bags. They bring rhythm, presence, continuity. They show up again and again, like fortune that doesn't rush, like a soft sign that something is building slowly, invisibly on your behalf. And yes, their presence may coincide with real shifts, an unexpected opportunity, a long-lost connection returning, a moment of health restored, not because they cause these things, but because their arrival reflects the conditions that allow those things to emerge. Calm, safety, receptivity. Of course, not everyone sees it. Some people wave them away, chase them out, see them as pests. That's their right. But when you choose differently, when you let them stay, observe them, make room for them without fear, you're choosing to let your home continue being what it's already becoming. A sanctuary. That doesn't mean you need to keep nests forever. It means you recognize them while they're here. You give thanks not to the bird or the bee, but to the space itself and to yourself for creating a home that nature trusts. Let that trust deepen. Keep your windows clean but not closed. Keep your corners soft, your noise low. Let the air move freely and life will find its way in. And when it does, don't ask too many questions. Just watch, just breathe. Because when birds, butterflies, or bees choose to rest in your space, you're not just hosting a visitor. You're witnessing a blessing, not loud, but lasting. Number 5, a crack that never grows wider. At first, you didn't even notice it. A thin line, barely visible, trailing along the corner of the wall. Maybe near the ceiling, maybe along the floor. It's been there for years. You've walked past it 1,000 times. You might have even planned to paint over it, patch it, fix it someday. But it stayed the same. It never widened, never crumbled, never turned into something bigger. Just stayed, quiet, harmless. Like a small scar that tells a story, but doesn't reopen the wound. And that matters. Because in a world where everything seems to decay, where most things break before we're ready, a crack that doesn't grow is a quiet miracle. It's a sign of holding, a sign of steadiness, not perfection, but peace. You see, not all cracks mean damage, some mean release. Homes shift, seasons pass, materials breathe. And sometimes a small crack appears, not as a warning, but as a breath. A place where tension leaves. A space where pressure found a safe way out. If it stops there, if it rests, then it has done its work. The energy has moved. The structure has listened. And if your house holds that line without fear, without collapse, it's telling you something. The foundation is strong. Not just the physical one beneath your feet, but the invisible one holding your life together. The routines you've built, the relationships you've nurtured, the quiet, slow strength you've chosen instead of dramatic highs. All of that shows itself in how your home behaves when no one's looking. A stable home shows restraint. Not because it never bends, but because it knows when to stop. And that stopping is sacred. We live in a time that pushes for more space, more speed, more renovation, but there's wisdom in stillness. In a home that has learned to hold its form without fighting. In walls that bear memory, not damage. In corners that hold light, not tension. A crack that doesn't grow wider is like a pause in a song that makes everything else sound better. You could cover it, but something in you knows it's not a flaw, it's a sign. A reminder that nothing is immune to change, but not all change is collapse. It might mark a difficult year, a moment of shift, a storm long past. But the crack didn't break the house. It simply asked the house to breathe, and the house did. And now it breathes with you. It holds your mornings and your doubts. It holds your sighs and your late-night thoughts. It holds the weight of time and does so without protest. You don't need to fear that line. You just need to see what it means, that your home has learned, just like you have, how to stay. That's a form of prosperity too. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that doesn't leave. That stays through quiet seasons. That steadies you when everything else moves. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred. And if that crack happens to be near a place you love, a chair by the window, a hallway you cross each morning, maybe that's not a mistake. Maybe it's where your energy landed hardest, where you leaned most, where your presence asked for a little more space and the wall responded. Gently, without breaking, don't rush to erase it, not yet. Wipe it down with a damp cloth. Let your hand move slowly along it, not to scrub, but to acknowledge. See it not as failure, but as memory. The house is telling you, I bent, I didn't break, you're safe. And maybe, deep down, that's all we want to know. That the space we return to every day doesn't need to be flawless. It just needs to hold our quiet, our tiredness, our hope, and do so with dignity. A crack that never grows wider does exactly that. So the next time you see it, don't rush to hide it. Pause, touch the wall softly, breathe, and let it be what it already is, a silent sign that your home, like your spirit, knows how to endure. Number 6, children laugh freely in your home. There are places where children grow quiet, where they cling to their parents' hand, eyes wide, steps hesitant. They don't always know why, but something in the air feels too tight, too cold, too loud even in silence. And then there are places like yours, where a child walks in and laughter arrives before words do, where shoes come off without asking, where small hands find toys you didn't know were still there, where tiny feet run without fear and giggles bounce off the walls like sunlight off water. You didn't plan for this. You didn't try. But somehow your home makes children feel safe, and that matters more than you may realize. Children are the purest energy sensors. They haven't yet learned how to pretend. They don't smile out of politeness. They don't stay where they feel unwelcome. Their bodies respond to what words can't touch. And when they play freely, fully, it means the space they're in is vibrating gently, calmly, openly. It means the energy is kind. This doesn't come from having toys or colorful walls. It comes from something deeper, a softness in the air, a rhythm in the room that doesn't rush, a balance that holds without pressing. Your home doesn't just make space for them, it invites them in without needing to say so. That invitation is sacred. It says, here you can be loud without being wrong. You can explore without fear. You can laugh, fall, cry, and still be safe. And when a home says that to a child, it's saying the same thing to you. To every part of you that still remembers what it's like to be unsure or tender or tired. A house that welcomes children freely is a house that has nothing to hide. No heavy energy in the corners. No arguments caught in the walls. No rush pressing at the door, just presence. And that presence is healing, not just for children, but for anyone who forgot how to rest. Sometimes you'll see it before you feel it. Your grandchild runs into the living room, finds a cushion, and invents a castle. A neighbor's daughter curls up on the floor and quietly hums to herself. A toddler who cried all the way over suddenly goes quiet and then smiles. These moments are more than cute. They are signals, whispers, evidence that your home is doing its quiet work, holding, softening, blessing. And over time, this energy builds something powerful. Children who feel safe in your space bring with them energy that renews the room. Their laughter isn't just sound, it's movement. It stirs stagnant corners, it lifts shadows, it calls in brightness. Even after they leave, the light lingers. The warmth doesn't go away. You find yourself breathing more deeply, moving a little slower, smiling for no reason. That's the echo of innocence. And innocence, when it's welcomed, attracts unexpected good. You may notice life flows easier. Phone calls come at the right time. Friends drop by when you most need company. Money arrives, not all at once, but just enough, just in time. As if the house, having been filled with joy, now holds something even larger. A kind of grace. And that grace is rooted in how your home makes others feel. You don't need a playroom. You don't need to entertain. You just need to be open, calm, present. When you are, children know. They enter your space like it's already theirs. They rest their heads in your lap. They fall asleep on your couch. They ask to come back again and again, not for what you give, but for what your home silently is. A sanctuary. So when you hear them laugh, stop what you're doing. Let the sound fill the space. Let it bounce down the hallway. Let it mix with the air and soak into the walls. Let it be medicine for them, for you, for the house itself. And if your home is quiet now, no little feet, no small voices, remember, the laughter that once lived here doesn't leave. It lingers, it blesses, it rests in the cushions and the corners. It stays long after the toys have been packed away. Because a home that once made space for joy never loses that gift. And if a child comes again and again they laugh, know this: your home is still alive, still open, still sacred. Number 7. A neglected plant still blooms. It sits quietly by the window. You barely notice it anymore. Weeks pass and you forget to water it. The soil looks dry. The pot is chipped. You meant to repot it last spring, but never did. And yet one morning you see it. A new leaf. Small, tender, impossibly green, reaching upward, unbothered by the neglect. As if the plant wasn't waiting for your care, but for your stillness. As if something in the air, in the light, in the house itself, was enough to keep it alive. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Some homes keep things growing, even when forgotten. Not because the people inside are perfect gardeners, but because the energy around them is gentle enough, alive enough, quiet enough for life to continue in its own way. That kind of home doesn't demand, it allows. It doesn't push growth, it holds space for it. And when a neglected plant still blooms, that is a sign, not just of resilience, but of invisible support. Of a life force that continues to move, even when no one's watching. Of a house that has become a small ecosystem, not of control, but of permission. A place where things are free to unfold at their own pace without punishment. Plants are silent mirrors. They reflect the energy we don't name. In homes where there is anger, they wither. In spaces where joy is rushed, they stall. But in homes where time softens, where air circulates, where voices don't shout, plants find a way. Even with little care, they stay. And sometimes they surprise us with a bloom we didn't expect. That surprise is a message. Your home is holding more than memory. It's holding possibility, even in forgotten corners, even through forgetful days. A single bud on an overlooked plant tells you something here is still open to grace. And grace grows in quiet. In the world outside, we're taught to measure everything. How fast, how much, how new. But a house with blooming plants that weren't pampered or curated is telling a different story. That growth is not a performance. It's a conversation between the light, the air, the walls, and something deeper, what you live like when no one's looking. Because if a plant still blooms where you forgot to tend it, what else might be quietly blooming in your life? What else have you set down or paused or pushed aside, only to find one day that it's still alive? A dream, a relationship, a part of you that stopped hoping. A neglected plant blooming is proof that time is not your enemy. That things return. That beauty isn't always loud. Sometimes it waits. Not in spite, but because the environment has become soft enough for it to feel safe again. That safety is prosperity, not in numbers, but in layers. The kind of prosperity that says, here, even when you forget, something remembers. Even when you stop, something continues. And that continuity doesn't come from effort, but from harmony. So what do you do when you see it? Don't rush to fix it. Don't water it out of guilt. Don't change the pot as a punishment for neglect. Just notice, sit near it. Let your eyes rest on that small leaf. Let it remind you that your home is participating, that it's not just holding your routines, but your quiet prayers. Even the ones you forgot you whispered. And maybe now it's answering one. Maybe that leaf is a small yes, a silent encouragement, a way of saying what you thought was over might just be beginning again. Let that thought linger. And if you feel moved, then yes, give it water. Not as a chore, but as a gesture. Not because the plant needs it, but because you do. Because in that act, you are participating in the quiet miracle that's already underway. And from that small interaction, other things begin to move. You might find yourself clearing the table without resistance, rearranging a drawer, opening a book you left halfway. The energy that allowed the plant to bloom may begin to move through you too, not to rush you, but to reawaken what still lives. Because sometimes all a soul needs is to know that even in stillness, life continues. Even in quiet, beauty forms. Even when forgotten, something remembers. And a single plant blooming without applause becomes the evidence. Number 8, old objects still work like new. You press the button on the old fan. It hums gently to life. No shaking, no hesitation, just the familiar rhythm, steady as ever. It's been with you for decades, through summers, sleepless nights, quiet afternoons. You've thought about replacing it more than once, but somehow it never breaks. It just keeps working. And so does the rice cooker from years ago. The lamp with a chipped base, the kettle with a faded handle. None of them are new. None of them are shiny, but every time you need them, they answer. That's not just durability, that's alignment. There's something about a home where old things still work. Something beyond good manufacturing. It speaks of the space they're kept in, the energy that surrounds them, the stillness that's been preserved. Because when energy in a home is calm and balanced, things age, but they don't decay. They soften, but they don't fall apart. They become part of the rhythm. Objects are not just tools, they're memory keepers, witnesses. They absorb how we live, our habits, our moods, our presence. And in return, they echo it back. If a space is chaotic, things break more easily. If the air is heavy, appliances strain. But in a home where peace lives quietly, things last. Not just because they're cared for, but because they're not disrupted. Longevity is a form of harmony, when the clock on the wall still ticks without needing a new battery. When the radio plays clearly after all these years. When the doorbell still rings with the same soft tone. It's not just nostalgia, it's evidence that your home is not in conflict with time. That things are allowed to remain useful even without being modern. That's a hidden kind of wealth. The kind that says, you don't need more, newer, faster. You just need to appreciate what already works. Because what works without complaint, what lasts without attention, what serves without breaking, that's what carries you. That's what supports you day after day without drama. And you might not even notice it until one day you do. You look at the teapot your mother gave you. You realize the handle never chipped, even though it's been used hundreds of times. You wipe the fridge door and feel the weight of years in its smooth click. You pull open the same drawer and it doesn't jam. And for a moment you feel it, not just gratitude, but awe. Because in a world of things constantly falling apart, your home is quietly holding together. That's not just good fortune, that's resonance. Resonance between how you live and how the space responds. You're not pushing energy through. You're not forcing things to keep up. You're letting time unfold without resistance. And your home is answering by letting things last, even the things you stopped expecting to. And that's why this matters. When old objects still work like new, it's a message. A reminder that not all value comes from appearance. That not everything needs replacing. That some things are sacred not because they shine, but because they endure. And endurance in a home is a form of quiet abundance. It means the energy here doesn't rot or rush. It holds. It nurtures. It preserves, and that preservation shows up in the smallest ways. The drawer that still slides smoothly. The remote that never lost its signal. The stool that never wobbles. These are not just conveniences, they are signs. That your home is not just surviving, but supporting. That you've created a space where things are not strained, where time moves but doesn't destroy, where use does not equal exhaustion. And maybe, just maybe, it's because you've learned to move the same way. You don't throw things out when they age, you adjust. You slow down, you listen, you let things rest. And in doing so, you've taught your space to be gentle. You've given your home permission to age with grace, not fear. So the next time something clicks on quietly without struggle, pause. Say thank you, not just to the object, but to yourself, to your home. To the unseen energy that's held things together year after year. That's prosperity, too. No gold, no glamour, just function that whispers. I'm still here, I still work, I still serve. And in a world chasing upgrades, that whisper is rare and deeply sacred. Number 9, guests leave with a deep sigh of relief. You don't always notice it right away. A friend comes over for tea. They sit at your kitchen table, stir their cup slowly. You talk or you don't. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes laughter fills the room. But then comes the moment just before they leave. They stand at the door, hand on the handle, and pause, and then it happens. A breath, deep, soft, almost unconscious. As if something inside them is exhaling, fully, for the first time all day. Not a sigh of stress, a sigh of release, of letting go, of something unseen softening inside them. That breath is a sign. It tells you more than words could. It says your home is not just a place. It's a field, a frequency, a quiet presence that touches people even when they don't realize it. A space that receives not just bodies but burdens, and helps them lighten without ever needing to fix. Because healing doesn't always look like change. Sometimes it looks like rest. And homes like yours, modest, quiet, lived in, offer that kind of rest. Not because you have perfect furniture or curated decor, but because the energy here doesn't demand. It listens. It doesn't push. It allows. And people, especially tired ones, feel it immediately. They sit longer than planned. They speak slower than usual. They forget what they were rushing to. And when they finally rise to leave, something in their body feels different. Less armor, less noise, more breath. That's not about hospitality, it's about holding. You've created a space that holds others gently without claiming them. That welcomes presence without expectation. That lets people arrive as they are and leave more themselves than when they came. That's rare, because most spaces don't do that. Most homes reflect anxiety. They rush, echo, overwhelm, but not yours. Yours receives. And that reception is not loud. It doesn't show up in big gestures. It shows up in the silence after goodbye. That moment when someone lingers at the door, when they pause and breathe and say, "I don't know why, but I always feel better here." Believe them, even if they don't have words for it, even if they change the subject. What they're trying to say is this: your home is sacred, not in form, but in feeling, not in objects, but in atmosphere, not in what it shows, but in what it lets go. It lets go of weight, it lets go of masks. It lets go of time just enough for someone to remember themselves again. And that kind of space doesn't just happen. It's made in every soft corner, every clean window, every absence of clutter, every silence not filled with background noise. You've made it over time, through choices, through presence, not because you tried to impress anyone, but because you were simply living honestly, gently, without crowding the air. That honesty becomes a frequency, and frequency is what people breathe, even without knowing it. And the breath they take when they leave, deep, unguarded, is the measure of what your home holds. It's the measure of how peace feels when it's not being advertised. And that's a form of wealth few people recognize. The wealth of being remembered for how your space made others feel. Not inspired, not amazed, but rested. Rested enough to face their lives with a little more softness, a little more room. So pay attention next time, not to what guests say, but to how they stand, how they walk out, how long they pause before opening the door. That's when the truth shows itself. That's when the spirit of your home speaks. And when it does, it doesn't shout, it sighs. Final. You've walked through your home 1,000 times, passed the same corners, opened the same door, sat in the same chair where morning light touches the floor just so. You've heard the creak in the hallway, the hush of afternoon air, the low hum of a fan that's always known when to rest. But today, something feels different. Not louder, not newer, just clearer. Because maybe now you're not just walking through your house, you're listening to it. To the way the walls have held you without complaint. To the softness in the air that makes silence feel like company. To the quiet invitation in every object that still serves without being asked. This home, so modest, so familiar, has been speaking all along. Not in words, but in warmth. Not in noise, but in the way the light stays, the plants bloom, the door welcomes, the air rests. It never asked for praise, it never demanded recognition. It simply kept showing up, day after day, moment after moment, holding you even when you forgot to notice. And now, just now, you do. You see the way things stay whole. You feel the quiet breath in each room. You hear the way children laugh and guests exhale. And for a moment, it all becomes undeniable. This is not just a house. It is a space that has loved you in silence. And maybe that's what sacred really means, not the absence of flaws, but the presence of something steady and kind. So today, don't look for signs outside. Don't search for fortune in distant places. Just pause, stand in the middle of your home, and ask yourself gently, what part of this space has been blessing me, even when I wasn't watching?